Hey everyone, welcome back to Transplant Gamer. It's Evan here again, and today I have another story for you. It doesn't have to do with video games, but it is another medical story. And as I said in my other video, not all stories will have to do with video games. There are some medical stories I'm going to tell. If you like those, then you'll enjoy these videos. If you're just here for the video games, I understand that. But today I wanted to tell a story from when I was younger. It actually has to do with the other story I told. This is kind of, I guess, a part two, kind of. So after I woke up and from, my other story where I did video games for therapy to get my hand-eye coordination and my fingers working again. Video games are actually part of my therapy. And once I got out of there, they moved me to a place called the Children's Institute, which is for sick children who need to be rehabilitated. Either a lot of kids in wheelchairs were there, just it was a rehabilitation center for kids basically. And there is where I did a lot of my learning to walk again, a lot of my physical therapy, a lot of my PT, a lot of my exercises. I think there were 2 PT therapists there, and that's where you lived. You ate there. That was for months. I lived there, and it was really, there's some really cool things about it. They had a pool. I remember there's part where I had to, for therapy, I had to go in the pool. Some of the therapy was using my legs. Going in the pool for my legs. To get my neck muscles back up and working. Some of it was walking. They actually had me up and trying to walk again. And I had a feeding tube in, down my nose into my stomach. I had a feeding tube, and I still had the trach in during this time. So I still had to use the passy they put in my trach to talk. So I needed that to talk still. But I was in a wheelchair, so I was finally getting on a bed and able to use a wheelchair. I still couldn't use, I still had to be pushed in the wheelchair. I think by that time, I think my hands were better at that time. Well, I was mostly pushed in my wheelchair. But as time went on, I was able to roll myself around using the wheels, just like you would with a wheelchair. But I have actually, I guess it would be a part 3 of this story. And part 3 doesn't have to do with video games either. Like I said, this is a gaming and medical story channel. They're both. In this story today, I want to talk about, well, let's just say the time I had an accident in my wheelchair. So my brother came to Pittsburgh to visit with my dad. They came down for a weekend, I guess, to visit me in the Children's Institute. And they had outside, they had a park built out of ramps. It was all ramps. It was a playground made out of ramps for the kids in a wheelchair, so they could be pushed around and go on the ramps. And it was just, if you picture just a playground just made out of ramps. It was pretty cool, and my mom would push me around on it. I think some of the PT people pushed me around, and it was really, and all the kids, I remember that we were out there on this wheelchair, ramp playground. And my brother came out to visit for a weekend. My dad came out to visit with my older brother. And we went out to the wheelchair park. And we were just hanging out. And I think my my mom must have been pushing me around, and Dad must have been pushing me around. And I guess eventually Adam wanted to push me around, which is my older brother. He wanted to push me around. So why not, I guess. So we were having fun. He was running really fast, going up and down the ramps, all around the park, on the ground, going around, going up on to the actual playground, on the ramps, going back down onto the ground, going around. And, the usual, just having fun. And all of a sudden, the wheel fell off my wheelchair, and the wheelchair tipped over. And this was still when Adam was running, so we were running. The back wheel came off of the wheelchair, tipped over, ripped out my feeding tube, the really long one that goes all the way down to your stomach. That came right out, and my oxygen came out. And I remember, I've heard from stories, like I said, I don't really remember, but I guess my brother was, I killed my brother, I killed my little brother. He was freaking out and crying. And I mean, it wasn't anything serious, just like if you wiped out on your bike. They picked up my wheelchair, that was fine. My feeding tube came out, which I was actually really excited about. A little scrapes on my arms, but nothing, I didn't hit my head, nothing, horrible. I was probably still crying and yelling. But, so then I remember one of the nurses or doctors said, well, we got to put this feeding tube back in. So they were going to, keep me awake and put the feeding tube, and they were going to feed it back through all the way down to my stomach, which I would have had to stay awake for. And I don't want to have another feeding tube. I don't want to go through having that put down my nose all the way down, and I did not want to go through that again. So they made a deal with me that if I started eating, and I had to eat, I had to practice eating again, that they wouldn't put the feeding tube back in. And I said, deal. I probably was okay. And I started eating. It probably started me on softer foods, since I hadn't eaten food in a while, and I had to keep it down, and I had to eat when I was told, or else they were going to put the feeding tube back in. And so I listened, I ate, I kept the food down, and I never had the feeding tube put back in. So it wasn't a fun day, falling out of your wheelchair and the feeding tube ripping out. Luckily, my trach didn't rip out. If my trach had ripped out, that would have been really bad. But I think trachs are in there pretty tight. So, but yeah, my feeding tube came out. And like I said, they made me a deal that if I ate and listened to the rules and did what I had to do, they wouldn't put the feeding tube back in. So I went with it and never got the feeding tube put back in, ever. So I know this is another short video, but I want to thank you guys for watching. If you like this short medical story, hit the like button, leave a comment if you want to hear more, subscribe, and video game videos are coming to this channel. Trust me, retro game videos are coming. But there is another side of this channel where I'm going to be doing my medical stories. And if you got into people that are interested in these videos, then thank you. If you're just here for the gaming, thank you. But again, if you like this video, please comment below what you think. Leave a like on this video if you liked it. And if you like, hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell to get notifications on when I upload. I want to thank you guys again so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. Bye.